which just means I do this stuff and help everybody out and work with the ski team and things like that on projects. So like Copper right now, I'm just there as advice and helping guys that need stuff, potentially go grind skis even for them, stuff like that. But just with the fluoro ban coming down hard right now, it's definitely catching a few people by surprise, and people are definitely a little more worried about it. So we'll talk about some of the ins and outs of that that's currently happening. Swix has been fluoro-free on our waxes for it's our 4th season going into fluoro-free. So anything that, unless you're buying old product online or something like that, or a store had it, we've been fluoro-free for, I think, this is our 4th season now. So, but besides that, we're just gonna talk about what you guys need to do. First, I'm gonna just kind of take a little bit of a, nothing specific, but a little bit of a general, people want to speak up real quick about where you're at, so I can kind of gauge what I should talk about for everybody. So those are, quick little, whoever wants to go, just let's spat out a couple things we want to think about so I know anything specific to cover while I'm going through this. So where's everyone at and what they tune and what are we doing? Start on this side.
I'll go first, sure. We get our skis ground and we find out what the angles are, and he does it.
Okay, nice.
He touches them up as you go, and if you need a serious tune, we go grind it again.
Okay.
But I've heard nasty things from Sam Morse, from Toko, his videos about grinding makes them dry out and slow, and you gotta wax and ski and get the hairs off and all that. So that's where I'm at.
Yep, okay. So we'll cover some of that info.
I just kind of try to keep up with it for my daughter's skis and my own skis, and it just started last year, so it's still pretty green at it.
Okay, so just maintenance stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm a coach, and I kind of give parents the basics and stuff like that, so.
Perfect.
To make sure they're the latest and greatest.
See if there's anything new you need to know. Okay.
Yeah, also coach, just maybe like starting with, given this time of year, what's necessary right now, as far as prep, and then like delving into in-season maintenance.
Okay. We'll just continue across the road that way.
I've got a first year U12 kid, and I've never tuned a ski in my life.
Perfect. Okay.
I'm more or less in the same boat.
Okay.
I tune my skis every couple of days.
Just looking for some info?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, or no. Yeah,
Okay.
So just want to know, is doing the right thing.
Perfect.
I want to know more.
Yeah, dad of a U14, a U12, and a U8 Alpine, so just tuning a lot of skis. Watched a lot of Graham Lindo's content in the past, but I find that I'm curious about learning more and more, but the more questions you ask, the more different opinions you get about how to do things. So I'm always learning what's the science of it versus the art, and what's the latest in some of it.
And I'll say early, there's a lot of ways to get there.
Yep.
So different opinions sometimes are just, it's different. But it just, a lot of it is figure out what does work for your routine. So yeah, definitely take it all in and figure out what works. So I'll just preface that part now.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the maintenance mode as well. Attended a few clinics and kind of noticed similar things, that there are different ways of doing it. Maybe it's more an art than a science, perhaps. So yeah, we're looking forward to this.
Getting a better understanding of wax selection, and picking your brain about infrared heaters, pros, cons, what your thoughts are.
Okay. We had a couple other people filter in. We were just kind of going over what you might want to learn from this, so I kind of can make sure I hit some key points or where you're at on stuff. So, back row.
Everything.
Okay, easy. You just want to pay attention to everything.
Turning 10 next week.
Perfect.
And U12, so we're fresh.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, similar to what others have said. I got a U16 and a couple of U12, so making sure that, I'm just doing the right maintenance.
Okay. All right, so we'll start out with basically prep of a ski. Most of the time, you're going to have the shop do that, but we'll talk about what you're going to be looking for so you can effectively continue to tune at home. Without a ski being pre-prepped well, it just makes tuning more difficult for you because there's just stuff in the way, so sharpening it becomes a more, more of a task than necessary sometimes. We'll talk about maintenance, things you need to do all the time. Basically, every time the skis come off snow for your athlete, you need to touch them up. If you don't touch them up, you end up in a faster wear down cycle, where if you keep refreshing it every time, it actually will last longer in the grand scheme of things compared to letting it wear down a little bit and then trying to bring it back, and wear down a little bit and bring it back. So we'll talk about everything you need to do every time the ski comes off snow, basically. And of course, that ends up being the best solution, so so your athlete has the best skis possible to go out and train. You know what I mean? If they're in a racing program, you're paying for a program or anything like that, maintaining their skis and giving them the best ability to get the most out of the program is huge. So maintenance is key. We'll talk about waxing, a couple different ways. Excuse me, I'm just all dried out from being out here still. I come from 500 feet, so I'm extremely dry when I end up starting to talk. So we'll talk about waxing, some of the different techniques in waxing, some of the changes that have happened in the past few years with waxing, and how much basically actually we're not using in iron at this point, which is quite surprising to a lot of people, and some things like that. We'll talk about the different waxes so you can understand the spectrum. Swix has 3 main waxes for what you're just trying to accomplish with it. So the big thing when, with the skis, when you get a ski, and you guys have probably noticed when you have new skis, they all have, we just kind of call it the bumper, that white, chunky, or black, whatever your sidewall is, that extra piece of material that's above your edge. Most of the time, you're going to have the ski shop remove that for you. Some people are going to do it at home, stuff like that, but most of the time when you buy a new ski and you let the shop prep it, it's something that they work on for you to make your life easier. The biggest thing about that is that extra piece of little bit of metal that's just above the edge on certain skis, that piece of sidewall that's left. When you're trying to sharpen, it's in the way because it's an extra piece of material. So the thing we need to do is have a shop remove at the start, and after that, something to still maintenance at home. You don't need to do it every time, but eventually as you're home doing maintenance and you notice you're filing or you're running diamonds, thank you, or you're running diamonds or stuff like that, and it seems like they're not doing anything to the edge, it's probably because you're getting to that plasticky, the sidewall material, and it's officially riding up on it, especially using diamonds. Diamonds will not cut the sidewall material. It'll just float on top of it. So if this stuff is in the way, right up against the edge, you're just fighting to sharpen your ski all the time. It's just way more difficult because a diamond's not going to remove, a plastic material. They work on metal. So that's one thing that's important. The other thing that we talk about is just called shaping. Most of the time, if you've ever noticed on a ski, it's got angle up here. As we get to the back of it, they tend to get square when they're brand new. And again, you can't get to the edge at that point because there's this whole massive piece of sidewall. So typically we just take a file and we file this bit of a profile off to again just allow you to get to the edge. It's one of the most important things to have when you start tuning is the fact you can actually tune a ski. Is actually being able to get to all that. Using a sidwaller, this ski is not going to probably have much for me to pull. This ski has been prepped. I'll give you an example. And of course, having good ski vices is a great help in making sure everything's stable. The big thing with a sidwaller, if you're going to get one and get using one, is notice the angle of the blade. Standing the blade too upright is what makes it more difficult. And if you've ever seen a ski that has like that scalloping kind of chunky effect, or you've used a sidwaller and you felt it skip, it's normally that you have the blade too straight. You want it tilted this way. So when it's doing this, it's kind of scraping this out, not trying to dig into it. So the big point is having some angle with the blade. So it's this way against the ski. When you adjust it, you're trying to adjust it as close as you can to the metal edge, then you're not going to get the metal edge. Because all that's going to do is it's really not going to do much, and you're just going to chunk up your blade. So if you have adjusted a little wrong, you might just wear the blade. You can spin the blade its whole life, and get lots of life out of it. But the big thing is you're trying to just remove that little bit of metal edge and the extra sidewall that's left. So The ski has almost nothing, so we're just getting little pieces, probably just saw some fall. But this ski is well cleaned up. Brush is handy to have. Clean stuff all the time. Last thing you want to do is have a little piece of metal or something hanging, because if you look here, you probably might not be able to see it well, but there are little chunks of metal that came off. Last thing you want to do is have something that hung over, and you then drive it into the base of the ski the next time you do something. So either keep an old paintbrush handy. The other good technique is just some towel or something. Just keep it in your other hand. Simply go like this. And wipe your ski. Just a good habit to get into. As you can see there, that's that little extra piece of metal we were talking about that we want to try and get rid of. That's not the edge, that's part of the piece of metal that's in the ski itself for support. So the key point is getting all that away. If you guys want to come up real quick, you can actually probably see it. It might be easy. You can actually see the profile. You can see that shiny mark. That's what you want to get rid of. It's your
Yes, I'm good, but I know when I'm hitting this, but I may not know when I'm hitting the second edge.
right. That's what you want to get. You can probably see that little bit of the color change where I just got.
You were leaving off metal.
Yes. The second edge. Yep. Yeah, the second edge. It's actually not part of the metal edge. It's the other piece of metal that's in the ski.
Oh my God.
That's the piece you want to get rid of.
Okay.
It all, as long as you pull enough of that, so when you're filing or whatever, you're not hitting that second edge, that's it. No more than that, no more than that.
Correct. Okay. The thing you don't want to do is if we were looking at the ski this way, you don't want to have the sidewall, a big trench, and then the metal edge. We just want something that's smooth. So it's the sidewall up to the metal edge. After you do this, this one very smooth. One of the other things you can do to make it all nice and tidy is sandpaper. The biggest trick there is sandpaper. Actually, drywall screen works fairly well. You'll find different sidewalls. Every ski manufacturer, the material's a little different, so they all sand a little different. So there's trial and error in getting a good job with that. But I've used drywall screen. Sandpaper's for the most part the normal. Definitely put on your gloves when you're doing this. Forgot to kind of cover that earlier. But I just use a scraper. The other thing that works is a dowel. Nice little round dowel that's just the profile, sometimes a little square block. A whole bunch of different ways to do it. Biggest thing then after you do that is all you really do is sand it. Of course, if you touch the edge a little bit, it doesn't matter because you're going to actually be finishing the edge again when you're done. So all we do is sand it, just to make it smooth and make it nice. It's not anything you have to do, but it's just that extra step in making your stuff nice.
What grit sandpaper?
I use 180 a lot. You know what I mean? It seems to be a good middle of the road. And again, different edges, they might get gummy. Because like this one here, if you look at this, that of course was Fisher sidewall. It gums up quite nicely. So it's a kind of a game to figure it out. The nice thing when you're done next is just good old Scotch-Brite from anywhere. And then you just smooth it in again. Now we just have that really nice, smooth finish on everything. That's really all you have to do to maintain your sidewalls once they're prepped. You know, I'd say if you're not used to an experience, best bet let the ski shop do it the first time, where they get all the material down well, and then as you end up sharpening the ski again and again, like I said, you notice it's not sharpening well, take the sidewaller out. A couple of passes typically is all it's going to take at that point, because you're just kind of pushing it down just a little bit. A little bit of sandpaper if you like, a little bit of Scotch-Brite, and now your ski's at least in a better position to be sharpened all the time.
Are you doing anything right near the tip and tail? Because I find it harder to pull that sidewall over.
Yeah, it's sometimes a little more difficult if the shop did enough, and the big thing is not to overdo it. You don't want to remove too much material, because then you risk, if you make too much of a bevel, you risk the ski coming apart faster, because you're removing too much material. The big thing there, like I said, is just take a file. I normally take your standard bastard cut file, you know, regular, good aggressive file, and literally just
You're not worried about the edge at all there when you're doing that?
no.
You're gonna resharpen at the end.
Yeah, and I'm not angling far enough I should ever hit it.
Ah,
You know what I mean? I'm kind of like right here at my most angle.
you're taking out material.
So I'm going to the top of the edge, same way as if I was using the sidewall.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm just kind of going like this, and you can kind of watch it. Usually a good finish. If you want a quick finish, just go sideways in the file. Leaves a really nice finish actually. Clean it off, and then just make sure like you can feel you have some taper to it. That's all you're really doing there. There's nothing, you know what I mean? It's not a lot of work. If you do it first time, yes, it's square, it's big, it's work. So typically having the ski shop do that to start is huge.
And the reason that's important on race skis and alpine skis is because unlike free skiing skis, and most of you know there's rocker, there's very little rocker in alpine racing skis.
Yeah.
So you want to get sharp tip to tail, truly.
Yeah, that's the big thing we'll cover is you can never be too sharp because you can always make a ski slightly more dull, very easy at the hill. So never be afraid that the ski is too sharp to start the day because that's what gummies are for, is to take some of the bite off a ski. So after the ski is prepped, the biggest thing is, you know, just maintenance we're going to talk about. The easy things you can do at home and you should be doing, whether it's your everyday ski, you can do a little bit of this just to maintain your stuff between tunes, and that we have a little more fun when the snow's hard. Although you guys, I'm used to probably way more hard snow than you are being from the east. But yeah, that's the big thing, is just how to maintain this edge to keep it sharp. The big thing about the thing I'll mention now is the base edge, don't play with it. You can't do anything to it once it is set by the ski shop.
Except mess it up.
Except mess it up. We're gonna try, because I didn't think about bringing the cardboard. We'll do it on this box. Give you a little bit of a drawing as to why you can't do anything. This is with the base facing me, so it'd be, we're gonna talk about it this way as if we were tuning it. So you have your ski, we're gonna over-exaggerate this a little bit. This is your edge angle here. We're gonna call that 1 degree. This is base material. So this is the contact point of the edge and the base material, and this is your edge angled at 1 degree. You can't do anything except ever is increase that angle. You can't make it less because there's no material there. You can make it greater. If you were ever trying a low angle and want to go to a greater angle, it's easy because you just file it off. The only way you can fix that, drew it on this side, is you actually have the ski ground, which removes a layer. This is now our new, so this becomes flat metal on top. This is our new intersection point, and then they set angle again. So that's why you can't do anything to it except for possibly make it greater. And that's also why you do end up having to randomly take your skis back in to have them reground, because as you ski, the edge does wear down and angle does increase slowly. So once it kind of increases too far, that's when the ski definitely has to go back in and be reground to squeeze it down, and you can set the base bevel again. Base bevel is, we'll talk about it real quick. Base bevel is important because it's how well a ski wants to react, and also how much edge pressure you can put on it. Most every ski you buy that you're going to be free skiing on, that you guys are just taking out casually, they're 1 degree. Some companies are 1.1, 1.2, whatever. A little bit of variable in there depending on the manufacturer. Race skis, we typically use a lower base bevel. So we're making the edge angle closer and closer to 0. Slalom skis have the least amount of bevel because we want the most amount of reaction, and it's the tightest radius we have. GS skis are usually similar or a little bit greater, depending on the age group and ability. There's some differences between all of this, so again, as coaching staff will tell you where your stuff should be. I'd say ski shops make recommendations, ask your coaches for proper recommendations. They're the ones that see the athletes and know what works well for them. Because too low of a base level can impede, progress sometimes. And then, so maybe that's half a degree most of the time on slalom skis, depending on the age categories. And when they're starting, they're more like 3/4 and maybe even 1 at a real low age. And as they get better and better, we make the ski flatter and flatter to make the ski react faster. But that's the basics of it. The other thing is as base level gets lower, we can actually generate higher edge pressure because it's a flatter surface for the same ski angle. So if the ski sits like this, no matter what, if this is 1 degree, this is our slip angle. If this was half a degree, that's our slip angle. So that's just kind of some basics as to how base level works. Again, something you're never going to adjust, but something you need to know about. The only thing you can do to the base is if you hit something, you have a bad burr, something that's stuck up pretty big. All you're going to do is take something like, you might have to go to a 400 and say start with 6, so you're not really doing much. And all you're going to do is just try to, like you hear nothing. And if we increase this a little bit, you can hear where it's nothing, and it comes up. I'm just pinching it to find the angle of the edge. You're just going to find that angle and just try to smooth that bad spot off. That you can do when you have damage, because that way you don't have that chunky burr straight down. So that's the one thing you will have to do here and there. Maintaining the edge.
Mike, one quick thing. If with the Evo it pulls up, so I don't do this, but if I use a ceramic, I will sometimes use, a stone. I will sometimes just run ceramic on the bottom.
Yep.
So is that okay to do that? 'Cause
Yeah.
It's not filing at all, right?
No, that's
just pushing the edge up a little bit, right?
Yep, after we do edging,
Okay,
side edging, we have the hanger.
Yes.
So it's similar to that.
Yep.
But this is just like if you had damage,
Yep.
just kind of
Okay.
finesse it off, then use your 1000, kind of polish it in a little bit or whatever. That's just if you do damage the edge. So side edge. Most everything's 3 degrees for race. That's the good average. Some guys use a little less side bevel on a downhill or speed ski. And on slalom, some guys use a more aggressive side angle up around 4. But basically, most stuff is 3. Retail skis, they come out of the box at 1, 2, or 3, depending on who makes it. 2 is the most common side edge angle by far of everything. You can make it whatever you want. It's preference. So even though a ski might come at 1 degree for the side edge, you want it to be have a little more total sharpness, you can make it 3 degrees. Totally your feel on that. The big thing is the ski does get sharper, they get dull a little faster, just like your kitchen knife. You know what I mean? Really good sharp kitchen knives. They cut great, but they dull out a little faster and you just have to maintain them more. That's about it. Just a little more maintenance on the higher ones, especially for with retail. Race skis, we're doing them all the time, so you're always making them sharper down. But your everyday skis, 2 is, a lot of guys will just shoot at 2 degrees and call it that because it's right in the middle, lasts pretty good, works pretty good for you guys retail skis all the time. Most important thing is having a good file guide. File guides come in, I'll say 4 main qualities. You have plain aluminum, which I just don't recommend because they wear out fast. As you rub them back and forth on the base, the face of it wears down and then they actually change angle. So you need to replace them more often. That's the big thing there. They do the ones that are hard anodized, which have they'll be gray, most of them are gray, some guys will do them in purple, the other colors. Those have, again, a surface treatment, so they don't wear out as fast. So they're definitely more durable using them. If one of you guys had 3 kids in a race program, you're going to be using a file guide a lot more, so you ought to think about that. There's then ones that just have you'll see some, they have a stainless steel plate glued on the front, basically. That plate just doesn't wear down, basically. They last very well. They'll still wear out on top as your file kind of wiggles around once in a while and things like that. And then you have the all metal ones, which kind of just last forever. As long as you don't lose them, you'll probably have this for a very long time. Obviously, the price point changes with how much use you're going to be using it for. You're not going to be using it much. The hard anodized ones are great. You know, you're gonna be tuning 3 pairs of skis every day, all winter long for an athlete. You might wanna just get the little higher quality one, because you're gonna wear it out, potentially, than a lesser quality. Again, most everything's 3 degrees. All the Swix file guides are either 89, which would be 1, 88, 2, 87, 3, so on and so on. The variable file guides, they do their job, I'm going to say, in a race world and trying to maintain skis. Fixed file guides are much better because they're always the same. You don't also have to worry about the fact of it got adjusted or the screw loosened and you didn't notice it, and you start filing and all of a sudden you just took your nice 3-degree ski and you just made it 90. So I recommend fixed file guides so you always, you know, are doing the right thing all the time. Filing, how many people file, like truly file or comfortable using files? A couple of us, okay. Files are pretty, you know, they're safe, they're fine. You're gonna learn to like them eventually, you're gonna have to. No matter how much work you do with your diamonds, sooner or later, you're gonna have to get the ski sharpened again. If you're not comfortable with files at that point, you might have to take it to the ski shop. This is something you can still do at home quite well. Again, files come in different cuts. Bastard being your more aggressive, probably the most aggressive. I'd recommend anyone here take it to an edge. A lot of stuff will say second cut, which is probably the recommended one until you're used to stuff so you don't gouge too hard potentially. And then you have final cut, which when you're starting out, I'd say you can use a second cut and use diamonds for everything else to smooth it back in. The big thing with filing, is this ski skied by somebody?
Yes.
Okay.
No, not now, that's just sitting as a spare in case somebody breaks something.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if I mess up the tune? That's what I'm checking on real quick, before I actually put a file to it.
Hey, Mike,
Yes,
how sharp is that ski right now?
fair.
Do you,
If anyone wants to come feel it now, come on
yeah,
up.
can folks feel it now?
Yeah,
And then
come on
after you do your work, have them feel the difference?
So come on up. I mean, it's got sharpness, it's not terrible, but it's, you know, it's not sharp. And everyone can hang out a little bit here if you want to. Don't feel like you have to sit right there. You know? The other thing we're talking about is smooth. This ski has a couple little dinks in it, just from being a coach's ski, I'm sure, but it's not terrible. You know, it just has some damage. And some of these little you know, like little divots you feel in the ski, you're not gonna get them all out. They're gonna have to live in. You know, some of them. You know, we're trying to make sure we don't have them, but, you know. So with filing, initially, you can file, I'll say choppy. And we're trying to just bring an edge back up that's dull. You're gonna kind of file. Sometimes I'll file a little more. One other thing you have to pay attention to as well, especially on race skis, most of the time when you file, most people end up putting more pressure through this section. You need to take extra time and actually just file the tip out and the tail. Because from regular filing, you see I'm just getting a high point specifically. From regularly filing, you change the radius of your skis all the time. Makes the ski change shape slowly. So we want to file these sections back out here and there, pay attention to it, so we try and keep the same radius all the time. At the lower level, they're not going to be checking radius. At the higher levels, you can actually have a ski fail inspection because the waist got filed down too far. You've changed the radius or you've made the ski too narrow. So just pay attention to trying to always keep kind of the same amount of material coming off, basically.
So why would you do the tips separately from if you're trying to do all the same?
Because when you're doing it, you just need to kind of get this off and then you're going to do the rest of the ski.
Okay.
Because that way, because in here, we're going to kind of be doing the same thing, but if you just kind of start here all the time, you don't really get a full bite is the problem.
Okay.
So you're trying to just get rid of this and that as you start, you know, you're just going to kind of just lifting slightly on the back cut, just so I'm not dragging the file much. You can get the change, just so you'll just wear the tool out faster if you're kind of pushing backwards. Again, brush, take your stuff off there.
How do you think about how much pressure you're putting on it when you file?
The biggest thing is you're kind of just holding it. You're not really pushing it. You know what I mean? You're applying pressure, but you're not like driving it. You still want to feel smooth. If you feel like you're kind of like, you're pushing too hard. You know what I mean? That's the big thing. Like if it feels like you're kind of like just really trying to, if you're trying to pull and it's really difficult, it means you're probably digging it too far.
How much of the file do you have making contact with the edge?
For the most part, all of it. Some guys, you can change the angle some, there's different preferences, that's for sure. I see some guys that like running a little more angle. Kind of varies also file to file, depending on what tooth count. I tend to rotate my file differently, depending on the tooth count. It's one thing also I forgot, besides the first cut, second cut, files also come in, they'll just have tooth count. So if it's a 12 tooth, it's more aggressive. If it's a 20 tooth, it's smoother because it's teeth per inch. So if we have 12 teeth in an inch, it's very aggressive. If we have 20 teeth in that inch, it's a smoother file. So it's the other way files are also listed. It's by teeth per inch. So the big thing is doing that. You know, check as you go along. As you get better at it, you'll kind of know where you need to go to start. You can kind of hear that spot where it skips, kind of a hardened spot, and also where the edge is just kind of missing a little bit. It's got a little extra curve right there, so you hear that skip in the file. We're not going to worry about getting this one edge perfect. But when I finish, nice little chunk. Always try to finish with one or two nice, smooth cuts. So you get rid of some of that work you've been putting into it as you kind of file the sections. So if you guys want to look, you can feel the basic difference of where we've started already. We have a little bit of a hanger. But that's how quick, I mean, we typically try and go a little sharper, but that's kind of how fast you can sharpen the skate. Start to bring it back to life when it's necessary.
When do you know when you use the file versus the file?
You go to use like your 200, 400, and it seems like you got nowhere.
Okay.
That's usually the best description I give. It's like you've done what you normally do. You know, traditionally you're like, oh, I normally do this, and you touch it and you're like, it doesn't feel like it got sharp. You do it some more and you're like, it's not really getting sharp. Fine. Yeah.
So you're not doing this every time you tune, you're not filing, you're generally gonna
No.
use stones or diamonds
Correct.
just to keep it honed?
Yep. Yeah, this is when it's finally like, don't. You know what I mean? You like I said, we were just saying, like, you do your normal process, you grab your 200, you do your 400, and you're like,
Not for sure.
you're like, this normally feels better. You know what I mean? That means you probably need to resharpen the ski all the way.
'Cause there's only so much edge to work with, obviously, you don't wanna keep taking it off if you don't have to.
For the most part, there's enough edge, as long as you don't do anything crazy, there's enough edge for the year. On the little skis, also on the smaller skis, they're not making them as dull as fast because they're just not as big to push on. You know what I mean? So there's a little, so sometimes on the smaller skis, yeah, you can get the pass down to the next kid and stuff like that. So
Yeah, we buy a lot of used skis from the Winter Sports Club from other families that their kids have aged out, and then we're buying,
yeah,
it's like the 30-year.
That's a great thing. And the big thing there is when you're doing that is just take notice to how much edge material is left
Yeah.
this way, so you look at it. I mean, you guys have had skis long enough, you know how much material should be there. After this, you're going to go to diamonds. If you didn't need to do this, you're going to start with diamonds. Diamonds are pretty self-explanatory: 200, 400, 600, 1,000. 200 being the most aggressive, 1,000 being your smoothest. There are ones that go past 1,000. The main ones that we use in ski is just 2, 4, 6, and 1,000. 200, the way I like to describe diamonds, 200 is actually gonna cut material, so it's gonna kind of act like a file to some degree. It's not gonna remove material like this, but you are actually removing edge. So you can actually change, you're actually changing the shape of the edge. So if you took a 200 and held it at a weird angle and went like this, you're actually gonna remove material. 400 is gonna do the same, not quite as much. When you get to 600, we're not cutting as much. You can still kind of do something that's not awesome, but your chances of doing damage are less, because we're getting a diamond that's gonna be smoother. 1000 doesn't do much of anything. Until you're very comfortable, and anytime you're using 2, 400, and I'll say even 600 at this point, still put it in a file guide. At the upper level, there's many times I'll grab a 600 and use it on a side edge without a problem. I've done it a lot. Until you're super comfortable and you've done a lot and you definitely know you're holding angle, use your file guide. For now, use the file guide, just maintain it. Diamonds are pretty awesome in the fact that they don't care which way they go. We're just gonna start at 600 here. Same thing, just put them in, make sure that you have enough sticking out, because most of them have a material edge, so you want to make sure you have enough diamonds sticking out. Diamonds are great in the fact that you can go both ways with them.
Are you wetting the stone before you do this?
I don't. Most of the World Cup guys don't. It's just a pain. You want to do it, great. Personally, I'll just clean my stuff when I'm done.
Do they last longer if you wet them?
I don't think so. I mean, for like me, a 600, if I'm tuning a lot, I'll blow through a 600 in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's the most used diamond by far. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing. It's the most used diamond. 1000s, they last months. You know, and that's using them a lot. I'm using them daily, so that's why. No, I just clean mine up in the sink when I finally have like that black track in them. I just clean them up. I can't think of anybody in the ski room wetting diamonds right now.
Okay.
In the men's room at Copper. Can't think of anybody. Yeah, so that's diamonds. Just again, we're holding the same thing. We're kind of maintaining, make sure we keep it square. I do always finish with at least a couple of full passes. Even though we're smoothing, you're still going to leave a little texture if you're just going back and forth. We don't want variable texture. I don't care if you finish forward or backwards. Finish in a smooth path.
Are you honing the bottom edge ever?
We're going to do that's right after this.
Okay.
So right now, if you guys come back up, we're yet sharper again. But now, if you take your fingernail, there's a little bit of a hanger here and there. Yep, ceramic or 1000. I typically use 1000 at this point. But there's definitely a hanger still that we didn't pull off.
Yes. And you went straight from the 5 to 600 here?
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah, I mean, this might benefit a little bit from a 400 step, but not a ton for where we're looking.
And you're not using the 200 because you just use the file?
Correct. Because I use the file, I will not use a 200.
Is it little lesser than sharp here, sharp there?
Yep, there's that flat spot that I said when we were hearing it. We know the edge is kind of
Weird.
caved out there.
When you say 200, would that be a course?
Yes. That should be, yes, because you have coarse at 200, medium at 400, fine at 6, extra fine at 1000.
Okay.
And if you're using a different brand stone for some reason, their naming is going to be a little different, obviously. Now is when I usually use 1000 at this point because I have enough of a hanger. If it's big enough, ceramic's not going to do much. 1000. If a ski had really low base bevel of like 0.5, you can kind of hold them flat with a little extra pressure. But for the most part, you're going to just tilt it a little bit. I'm showing you an extreme, but we're just going to tilt it. And all you're going to do is tilt it a little bit, hold it.
So you're trying to follow the half edge, that half-degree edge, you're trying to follow that, basically?
I'm a little over it.
Okay.
Because this isn't going to change the bevel. I'm just trying to cut that hanger off.
Okay.
So now, if you were to check this, we have
No
hanger left.
What brick was that?
That's the 1000. We did take a little bit of sharpness off, just a touch. So we kind of have to go back and forth, because the big thing with a hanger is a piece of metal that's kind of stuck there, and every time you do something, it kind of folds over, kind of fold it back, kind of fold it over, you kind of fold it back. Same way as if you're trying to break a piece of metal, you keep going back and forth. That's what a hanger is. So we actually kind of folded it back up a little bit. We didn't fully cut it off. There's still a little bit left.
And
You
sorry,
can,
I think you said already, but you prefer to use 1,000 versus a ceramic stone or something like that?
on my first finish, yes. I'll still finish with a ceramic
Okay.
most of the time. And again, now, I don't have any problem with 1,000 because we're not really doing much. You're gonna hold it, you know, towards the edge angle, not quite flat, and you can go like this. So again, smooth it again, and the edge just changed. So come on up here, I'm gonna show you the difference of something. So let me do this. All right, so feel the edge. Okay. Now, we're gonna simply take 1,000. All right, we're gonna take 1,000. Now feel the edge.
Pretty sharp,
That's all it is.
Wow.
One touch.
That's great. That's
So
like a hole, that's like.
Right. And then, if you want to change it, you know, typically I'll do my base touch with a ceramic. And then I'll take the ceramic. The ceramic you can use kind of aggressively angled. I'll actually use it a little hard to give it. That's reasonable.
Okay, because otherwise it's too sharp, you think?
No, that's pretty good.
You just de-shoved it a little tiny bit.
No, there's actually a little bit of a hanger left.
Oh.
It adds a little bit of different texture to it. So it's smoother now. The biggest thing is this hanger is also, a little bit of a hanger is okay. The big thing is hangers in the snow goes are going to steer the ski. The other thing about a hanger, some guys will leave a ridiculous hanger and they're like, it's sharp. It's not really sharp. And hangers fold back. The way we just folded it off with 1,000, if you leave that, snow folds it off. Suddenly it's gone. I mean, you saw what happened when I went like this. We make the ski dull again. So if you leave too much of a hanger when you're tuning, you go ski it, that hanger gets folded off basically the way I just did it, and the ski's not as sharp as it should be.
So this is the finer points for sure of how to get it really sharp, so. Okay. So 1,000 and then 1,000
Right,
and then
but
it's
just
ceramic.
1,000.
Which do you care? So you're doing that, so I would use a base guide, but you're saying go, I would have used a base guide.
On the base, just
Angle,
freehand.
but you don't care.
No, not with 1,000.
You're going more aggressive than the angle.
Not with 1,000, you're just a little over.
Are you finishing because you're good at it, or would you want us to use the 1,000 on the edge with the 3?
I say you still do it by hand.
You still do it by hand, okay.
But you're trying to follow the actual edge, or you're going a little.
I have a little, I'm not quite, like if this was square,
Yeah.
I'm just maybe a touch over. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not critical, as long as I'm not like this.
Okay.
And I'm not like flat, it's just like the fact of, you know, you can feel the edge, like it gets square,
Yeah.
and I just kind of hold it, make sure.
Okay.
1,000, you're not gonna do anything. And with a 600, don't do it. You know, just probably you're not good enough. Just to be honest, you know what I mean? Like, that's where you can change it.
Okay.
The 1,000 is just touch.
Mike, what
Yes.
would you say in your opinion, just, don't need base guides?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, it's something, let the shop do it. Yeah, let the shop do the base,
What's that?
and then you're just gonna touch it with the stone or whatever.
It's just removing burrs, yeah.
I feel good, that's the first thing I told him, see this, you don't need it.
What's that? No, that's the sidwaller. The guide is here. And the big thing that I didn't have you do before you walked away, if you notice, this ski is sharp to here. Tail could use a little more line. Yeah, but we make it sharp all the way. So there's maximum amount of ability to make the ski turn for the athlete to make it work. And again, they get out there, the ski's too sharp. That's what gummy stones are for. You should always have a gummy stone on you. Every one of your kids should have a gummy stone in their pack, so they don't have to chase down the coach.
How do they know they're too sharp?
They go to turn and it just feels like it's gonna pull them, or it digs in basically.
Okay.
There's too much sharpness, so if the ski is too sharp in the tip, it wants to basically dig in and turn. the ski is too sharp in the tail, they can't get off the turn.
Okay.
They get hung up on the turn, because the ski basically stays, grip, they can't get it to come around.
I got you.
Gummy stone. That's it, a little bit of polish. One of the things when using the gummy is if you again, you can always take more off, but you can't put it back on. You're a little worried about how sharp it is. It might be, if it feels a little too sharp, initially just kind of go like this. See how it skis. Do a next one that goes just a little further. So we're kind of blending it. We're not just gonna go, you know what I mean? We wanna like take some off, take a little more off, take a little more off if we're gonna do something like that. So it's kind of like,
Okay.
okay? There's sometimes you do know you're like, oh, that was a mistake, and you're just gonna like take off this part, but then you're gonna kind of just make sure you transition it and don't just polish off the sharp spot and go from there, and have like soft to like direct sharp. We want a little bit of a transition, both on tip and tail. So anything we do on the tip is the same for the tail.
So the gummy stone you really only use on the tip and tail?
Sometimes if a ski is just too sharp, you might just do a full flat out.
You're kind of at a 45 on that?
Yeah, I just hold it right at square. Like directly, right on the point.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like right on the point.
Okay.
I'm not holding it this way or this way.
Okay.
I'm right on the point. Gummy stones do come in different hardnesses. Gray is soft, which means it's the most abrasive. Brown, it's a brown red, is a medium. That's in between. Blue is extra hard. These don't do almost anything. These I typically use for more like touch work. Most of the time in your pocket, you're going to keep gray or red, brown. I don't know what color officially to call it myself.
Would you say for your 12-year-old athlete, they should have a medium one then?
Yeah, the brown, that red brown kind of thing.
To go to blue.
Right, okay.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, the extra hard is not one I normally, even for me on the slope with athletes, I actually normally have this and a brown, just because it's a little different step of where I'm at. But even this, you just kind of learn not to push too much. If you have a soft, you just don't push as much. You just kind of let it glide a little compared to like, this. I'm definitely always like, if I'm doing tip or tail with this, I got some pressure to it, and then I'm just holding it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say all the coaches have gummies, and kids shouldn't be going and dulling their own skis on them. Okay.
Let the coaches do
His
it.
pocket.
Fair enough.
But that's really the basics for how you maintain it. You know what I mean? It's just everything's a progression. Like if you're sanding wood, you start off rough and we make it smooth. The same way here. We want to bring the edge up and we want the edge to be smooth eventually.
So you're using the gummy every time you tune on the tip and tail?
No.
Just if it's too much?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, again, depending on, and this is gonna be some stuff where coaches are gonna have to help you based on athletes and ages and stuff like that. I'm covering this is what we do, and then we have to break it down a little bit more depending on categories and stuff like that. But this is the process to where we would start. We always wanna start sharp, because we can always take it down. That's where coaches are gonna be, again, we talked about base levels. When you need to get your skis ground, your coaches are your baseline to tell you where they need to be. Because the wrong base bevel is just not going to help the athlete in any way. If the ski's too aggressive on them, they're never going to get the ski out to turn. It's just turn then. So coaches are your lifeline there to make sure that you're making the right decisions. Wax. Are we good? We're good.
Are you going to talk about Evo at all, or if I have some questions? Should
Sorry.
I ask you after?
No,
If
we'd
others
gladly
aren't
talk about
using it,
Evo.
I'd be happy to ask after.
Nope, we'd gladly talk about Evo.
So, yeah.
Evo is a great, right there on the floor. Kind of wasn't thinking about it much when. So, Evo is your substitute to fiber, basically. We have an abrasive disc that spins. They come in extra fine, medium, and coarse. Do not buy a coarse, don't need it, in all honesty. Medium is something you're going to use when you have damage or you're trying to bring the edge back up. The ski's gotten dull, it's time to make it sharp. We're going to use medium. Fine is, of course, just that. You can kind of use this in progression. A little smoother. Extra fine is just that. It's the smoothest disc we have. If you want to use an Evo for general light sharpening, just use the extra fine. You're better off to make an extra pass than you are to remove too much material. Okay, so a medium might gladly make the ski the sharpest in one shot, but you might be removing more material than necessary. So I recommend using the smoother disc to start. Plus that way there's less hanger, there's less secondary work. Evo itself just has an angle guide on it, so you just set it to 87, 88, whatever's necessary. There's a nice little arrow on it for which direction you use it. And all we do is simply, you just simply hold it against the ski the same as a file guide because the disc is spring loaded. So it actually moves up and down by itself. It maintains its own pressure. You're still not going to squeeze this thing into the ski because it's just going to create drag when you're trying to pull it. But you don't have to worry about how hard you're really pushing it down. The disc is spring loaded, so it maintains its own pressure. When you are using anything like this, make sure dry run it to make sure you're not like gonna run into your vise or something. Make sure you have enough room, because if by chance you had your vise here for some reason, you're probably gonna catch the end of the vise. So keeping your vices out at the tip and tail is important. I'd only say use it on Solomon GS. I don't know what age group you're getting into any speed stuff. Speed skis, a bunch of us are still like, we want speed skis to be smoother and more feel, and you kind of know what's going on. So a lot of us won't use machines on speed skis. We use them on Solomon GS without a problem. I can at least make it partway here. But this thing's pretty simple, and the fact, like I said, you just simply turn it on. Just want to set it 3 degrees. We got a little bit of a blend here. Make sure your cord's not going to get hooked on anything. It's another good thing to kind of make sure you're like not going to dangle your cord. I usually try to keep my cord in my hand most of the time. So when I go to do this, I'm going to run out of cord, so I'm going to stop it. That's fine. Oh. The simple things you miss. But that's how simple an Evo works. Again, you're then still going to use your like 400, 600.
That's a
1.
file, effectively.
Yes.
Even an extra fine, you would say that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd still say,
But that's well, I think Graham talked about it, but that is rotating reverse, so that's pulling the edge up, right? There should not be as much.
right, there's always some hanger because we're squishing metal down, we're saying. But yes, you'll still need to, like normal, like kind of like where I did after I filed, I just kind of went 600 and then I took it off.
Yep.
It's going to be about
Still
the
do
same.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, still going to be about the same.
And how do you feel, like I have the hardest time in the tip and tail on that too? I mean,
Hand file your tip and tails out.
Still.
Yes, because it's difficult with any of the machines out there. There's only one handheld machine that actually really you can get the tip and tail just right. There's only one. Most of the time, because you can't quite, because you're kind of like, it kind of rolls over
Yeah, it starts to
here.
curve, yeah.
So the best bet is, again, file this out to your, because you know the Evo's going to start just about here. So make sure you file this.
So again, coming back to
File this, run your Evo.
radius, if you're just using extra fine, you're still thinking about that more as a file. Because I would think about that more as maybe a more coarse stone. But if I'm not hitting the file on the tip and tail, I might be getting a little more radius.
No matter what, yeah, any machine, because you're not getting these high points, you definitely need to still file these off by hand. And then, then you can definitely use the Evo. The tip's a little easier, and of course GS skis are easier yet because they don't have as much shape to them. So GS skis are way easier. Slalom skis are the ones where it's hard to get it like right up in here well. GS skis, you can probably, on a GS ski, you can probably get it on a GS ski, where you don't have to file tip and tails. Slalom skis, you definitely want to maintain that at these 2 points.
In the speed, you're saying at a high level, you want that hand feel in a speed ski?
Yeah.
You want to really feel because of what's unique to that speed ski that you want?
Most of the time, you have very thin edges on speed skis, and we want to remove just enough to make it sharp and hopefully never do anything else. That's usually the biggest thing, is that half the time, I mean, I've had guys give me brand new speed skis, when I was running the machine here and there, just so they didn't have to do it by hand, but we'll take a brand new speed ski and take half the edge off of it.
Right.
Immediately, before it even goes on snow. So if the edge was 1 millimeter wide, we take it to half a millimeter before it even hits snow. Because it's just not, you just don't want it in speed.
Not much edge, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, this is at this level, you know what I mean, not beginner stuff, entry level, this is when we're talking World Cup level skis, and we're taking half the edge off the start. Just don't even think about it. So wax, we're gonna talk about wax. One of the big things now is, like I said, we're not ironing much anymore. We're doing a lot of the sprays or using the wax roller, which I can find down somewhere. Wax roller is one of your best friends, because irons definitely still have their place, no question about it. They are necessary for certain things. Using them daily all the time, especially on tech skis, you kind of beat up the ski a little bit in the base, and you can overheat a ski if you're not consistent with it. And direct contact heat is the worst thing for any piece of plastic, we're just gonna call it, for the simplicity of what it is. As you continually heat something up and let it cool, it shrinks and it gets brittle slowly. So direct iron heat is the worst thing you can do to any type of plastic like that. Speed skis, we still do it a bit because we're trying to push a little more wax in because we're worried about ultimate glide. Tech skis being slalom and GS, I don't iron it at all. Just don't do it. Wax rollers are our new best friend because the big thing with a wax roller when you're ironing, of course, you have a cold surface and you have a wax that you've dribbled on, and the wax is now back at room temperature. So you have to heat the wax, make the wax wick, and put it in the ski. Rollers, you already have a liquid product that you're applying. That's one of the big differences. We already have a liquid going in. We're not trying to heat it to make it liquid and then put it in. The wax roller, you just set it to the temperature that the wax has. There's a digital, these are digital. If you're using like PS8 140, sounds right. Set it to 140, let it get nicely melted, and just let it get the full melt. Mine is probably, of course, full stock. There is a metal roller in the bottom, and that transfers the wax up onto the rubber roller. But you just keep these things filled up with wax, and get them up temp, roll your skis, let them cool, scrape them, brush them.
Do you have, so I haven't used one of those, do you have a different metal container for each
I do.
wax that you have, so you're 6, 7,
For like 6, 7, 8, I do.
Yeah.
You can just buy the container separate.
What's 6, 7, 8?
The temperature ranges.
Okay.
We're gonna cover that.
I've never seen this tool in my life.
Okay, we're gonna talk about temperature ranges next. But yeah, it's nice because you just pull this out and put in your other one if you're gonna use 6 or 7 or 8, which is all temperature ranges depending on, we base everything on air temperature just because it's really the way you kind of have to do it. You don't know what snow temperature is.
So all those temperatures for your waxes are based on the air temperature of the day, not the snow temperature?
Correct, that's what we're working off of. We're putting it to what you're gonna be probably dealing with. So we have 3 grades of wax, we'll call it. We have PS. If you're familiar with Swix, it was our old CH. It's your standard, everyday, put it on whatever skis, stuff you're gonna put on your own skis, just to make sure you have wax skis. Everyday basic wax. Next is called HS, which replaced LF, which was low fluoro. We now have HS, which is high speed. So that's your first level race wax, we'll call it. That's for the most part what you're really gonna use for slalom and GS all the time. Then we go to TS, which is top speed, which replaces high fluoro wax. That steps up significantly in price, I'll say. It's by far our fastest wax. Not that you need to run it on slalom and GS skis. I mean, the super high quality wax is where we're going to be chasing those hundreds and whatnot in speed events, and we have time, we can glide and things like that. So TS, I usually tell most parents, save it for speed. Don't bother spending the money for tech.
So
It's
we
gonna
should be
make
fine with HS, like if we're like a U12, U14, you just HS is good, or PS?
PS for training. Yeah.
PS for training, but HS for racing.
HS.
And then you should have different little metal containers for each of them then, right?
Yes, we're training lots of times. I mean, like when, if the temperature's real consistent, I don't know where your temperature hangs out at here. But it's like, I used to just wax like PS6 for training all the time.
That's a lot of six.
That was it, just PS6, call it. I mean, if the ski's a little slow that day, like, yeah, you know. But yeah, PS6 is probably your go-to wax here is my guess. HS is not that much more expensive. I mean, I know some people that just are like, you know what, I'm not even gonna bother, I'm just gonna use HS, and they roll with it. So PS, we have in the regular, you know, block form wax that, again, is great to use in the roll pot. If you are going to iron it, if you're still ironing regularly and it's just the way you like to do it, I recommend, makes the iron glide a little easier. If you take the wax, it saves wax at the same time. You take the wax and crayon the base real quick. And then you would do your normal dribble trail. This little wax layer helps the wax wick faster. Sometimes if you ever iron, you kind of did the zigzag and you're going, all of a sudden it kind of sticks. It's kind of just hanging up. A little bit of a quick crayon base just helps your waxing. So just again, take the bar, give it a quick little, and do your dribble trail and your iron. If you are still running an iron all the time, again, all of our wax has a temperature on it. This one's 155 degrees C, for example. Set your iron to the desired temperature, make sure it comes up and says what it is. When you are waxing, irons do have a direction. All Swix irons, the cord end is the front. So the iron goes this way. Do not use your iron this way. You're changing the surface area of the plate. Big bevel, dimples, smooth, little bevel. It's the direction the iron goes. So you have your dribble trail, so it kind of can go under the ramp, get pushed out, get smoothed out. So irons have a specific direction. When you are ironing, and you have that nice shiny section of wax, your wax trail should not be any longer than your iron. If you're here with your iron and this whole part of the ski is still shiny,
Too much wax.
it's too hot.
Oh, too hot.
Yes, it's too hot. You put too much heat in the skis. The ski's not cooling fast enough. So if the ski is shiny all the way back to here still, bad. We want to see that shiny portion basically follow us at the length of the iron. That's the easiest thing to pay attention to. You know, you're going to get a little, if it's a little short, you know what I mean? Some of the high-end waxes, like the TS powders, will cover them a little bit, so at least you're familiar. They're completely different. There's almost no wax trail behind them because you're using a powder and temperature's high, and you put a lot of heat in the ski fast, and you're actually not looking for a giant wax trail. You're kind of just melting what you need right underneath. You'll just see like little squiggles kind of following you. So PS is your everyday wax. Works great. Temperature ranges are written on the wax. If you're ever going to make a mistake on wax, pick the colder wax, so it's harder. When we go to HS, all of our HS and TS waxes are completely different consistency than PS. They're much harder. Most of them have a higher iron temperature but the exact same wax temperature. So if it's 150, for example, on PS, the iron's probably 155 for HS. So definitely pay attention to the container. Just because you're like, oh, it's 150. HS is probably a different temperature. TS and HS are the same temperatures. But back to the PS line, it's coming out. We have probably Norway wouldn't like it. I call it like a shoe polish because it's a liquid. It's truly in a bottle where you shake it up. You either apply it with a felt pad or some type of cloth, basically. So I'm just gonna, so all you do is you shake it up, make sure it's mixed well, put it on the cloth, just literally rub it down the ski, make sure you cover the whole ski nice, let it dry, 10 minutes probably, scrape it off, brush it. We also have the aerosol sprays. I don't have any of the PS with me, but it's the exact same size can, but it says PS on it. That is very similar in the fact of, again, all you're gonna do is spray it. The time frame on spraying a ski is pretty quick. If you spray too much, you're just kind of wasting it. You're not gonna do anything wrong, you're just wasting, it's a little extra. But spray time really is just like, shh, that's it. You just need to see that you got the whole ski. Again, it's gonna dry in about 10 minutes, brush it up, away you go.
Don't scrape that one?
You don't need to. Sometimes, I mean, if you got a little heavy on it, you might want to, because it really comes off like wax. Like, you go to scrape it, like if you got one that's kind of heavy, like you're kind of like, oh, I got too much on there, like you can see it kind of sitting on top. And like 15 minutes later, you still kind of see wet spots. That tells you just got too much on it. Again, you're just gonna have to wait a little longer for it to dry. Then I would say take a scraper, give it a little push down, so you have a little layer on top, and then brush it up.
How durable, like, if you think about the course of the day, how long do you think this aerosol is lasting? How many runs do you think that is still holding up?
This is all I used when I teched with the ski team.
So you're just using that, you're not even using what? You're just
I rolled,
Yep.
but like,
Day of.
like copper,
Yep.
I could go 4 days between rolling.
With having that.
Yeah. And again, it's gonna change, you have to watch the ski, you know what I mean? I'm not saying there's any rule, because snow coarseness is gonna change, you know what I mean? But yeah, there's many times I could go 4 days in copper. I'd roll 6, I was rolling HS6 admittedly, not PS. I'd spray every day.
And you're fine putting a 6 or a 7 or a different spray over that 6?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that was my base wax,
Yep.
because that was our average.
Yep.
Just, most of the time, I mean, sometimes I put on 7, but most of the time really, with copper, I'm just like, I just put on 6. In all honesty, it's copper, strain, 6.
My daughter's skis were set up by the race plates, and I was doing the spray aerosol, and I noticed right under the boot, on both sides, it's starting to get a little chalky.
You should probably
Is
get
that time to
some,
wax then?
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you start seeing that a little bit, definitely go to the roller. Maybe you need to iron, because maybe you waited a little too long, you're gonna try and iron some in. Base burn is something you still need to pay attention to, whether you're ironing wax, rolling wax, spraying wax, you still need to pay attention to it.
Mike, before, sorry to keep going
No,
back, but
it's
before
fine.
you wax, I still talk to some people that swear by hot scraping. I'm not hot scraping, I'm using the glide wax to spray.
Not hot scrape.
Right.
We, at this point, we say do not hot scrape.
Yep. So I'm using this just Swix glide wax.
Yep.
Cleaner.
Like I-84 or something.
Yeah, I don't know
whatever.
which one it is, but yeah, not the abrasive stuff. Not
Right.
the- when you talk about, so that copper, you rolled, are you not cleaning? So day 2, day 3, day 4, if you just put an aerosol on, would you clean it all and try to get anything out? Now you're just spraying? Okay. So when would you?
Then brushing.
When would you clean? Like when would I want to do that?
I don't know. Like, it's one of
If
those
the
ones
snow's not
that-
dirty, if it's not.
Yeah, like, it's such a game.
Because I do
like-
that before, I was doing that before I rolled or ironed every time. Like every time I put on base wax, I would clean first.
You can, I mean, like over there, I mean, I probably won't even clean that if I'm brushing a lot. I'm trying to even think about like, yeah, maybe if you're really changing, like, I don't clean that much, as long as I'm maintaining.
What's the product called, the cleaner though?
What's that?
What's the product called, the cleaner?
The one is I-84 is the one main one.
Glide wax.
Yeah, I just, the I-84 is the main one I keep around, there's a bunch of them. There's a new one coming out called I-94, which is actually listed as a fluoro cleaner. The I-84 will still act as a fluoro cleaner without a problem. It's actually the one in the video right now that they're talking about is the I-84 cleaner. Well, they talked about that. But yeah, cleaner, you're just basically gonna put it up, you can put it on. Fiberline is your best friend for that, which is more of this thin cloth you saw me using.
What's that called?
Fiberline.
Fiberline.
Yep, Fiberlene. This is just your great stuff to have around, especially when you're brushing, which we'll talk about, because you get the dust on it. This picks up, it's kind of like if you're a woodworker, it's like cheesecloth, it picks up that nice little micro dust before you put any urethane or anything on. This is your cheesecloth of woodworking. Where we would use this to wipe off all that little fine dust and pick it up and it gets trapped in the cloth.
Is that?
Use this pretty heavily.
Is that, could you use just like a t-shirt or something?
No, I don't recommend that because it doesn't pick up all the pieces as well. And you're always ripping off clean pieces.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You're basically gonna rip this off, use it up for the little bit that it is, throw it in the garbage can, get another clean piece. That's the big thing. You see, you kind of go through a lot of fiberline, but fiberline's not real expensive. I mean, a roll like this is gonna definitely last you all year, even the short rolls probably. HS wax is identical to PS in the amount we have. So we have it as block, we have it as spray, and we have it as liquid. So, but that's just your step-up wax. So that's available as this, and then we also do have the liquid in the bottle, like I talked about. Shake it up, put it on like that. It's not in yet, but it is coming.
Do you prefer that? Do you prefer that liquid over the spray, or?
It's a dependent thing. I do really like the liquids for certain things. Like if I was doing, for me, I'd spray slalom, I'd liquid GS.
Why speed? Like why?
The liquid just seems, for the GS, it just seemed to last a little longer on long training days. If my guys had 8 or 10 runs for some reason, like they would just do a massive volume day, you know what I mean? It just seemed to have a little more durability to it.
Now with the liquid one, do you spray that one, is that what you said? As opposed to the spray?
Sometimes you don't need to. If you can, a coarser brush, like a number 2, will peel it off. Yeah, but if you think you got on a little thick for some reason, you'll know the minute you go to brush, you're gonna be like, nope, I'm just gonna take a scraper real quick. You'll know the minute you go to brush if you need to take a scraper. And then TS, that's where it gets complex. I'll at least fill you in. I probably won't go into a lot of detail unless anyone wants a lot of detail about the top speed wax. Does anyone want a lot of detail?
You can only handle so much, man. This is a lot.
Right.
This is a lot.
Exactly. So top speed comes in a bar form, a spray form, and a powder. And we also have it for officially clean and dirty snow. So it gets complex. But it does come in 3 forms. The spray still goes on like spray. The block still goes on like block. And the powder is literally, you just put it on like out of a salt shaker, put a nice powder on, and then you just run the iron down it. That just takes a little time to get used to. It's a little weird. When you get used to doing powder, like it's one clean shot and you're done. So when you get used to it, it's awesome actually. And there's barely anything to scrape, which is kind of nice. So that's one of the things as well. It goes into the ski in one shot without a lot of heat penetration. Even though we're ironing, we're like one line over.
How much does that roller thing cost?
They retail at $2.99, and then you guys get the 40% off.
Okay.
And how do you, that thing's for the liquid, that's for the liquid wax?
This?
Yes.
Yes, it liquefies it.
Okay, so that's the third part, that's the solid with the iron, the spray, and the liquid, that's what it is.
But there's
Yeah,
also
like basically if you're using this, like unless you're doing speed skis and you need an iron, for the most part, you can roll everything and then just top coat with sprays as necessary.
You're asking if it's I think he's asking if it's the liquid wax that you use.
Oh, no, this you're just taking block
Yes.
and melting it in.
Yeah, that's what you call liquid wax.
No, he's
No,
also.
liquid is truly, it's like an aerosol, or a true like liquid, it's in a bottle that you put on a rag. White bottle.
That was my question.
Yep, yeah, either a felt or like an application style thicker cloth.
Okay. You said that was PS only?
PS and HS.
And HS, the
Yes.
liquids.
Yep. Yours not here yet, but they will be. Some, I think we have 1 temperature range in stock in PS so far. There's more coming in December.
And on that roller device, do you have to have the 180 gram block of wax?
No, you can do the 40s. Most guys still like buying the 180s, and either you take the screwdriver and a hammer, and you kind of make little chunks. I personally make sure I have my gloves on, and I just take my razor knife, and I keep my hand over here, and I just kind of slice chunks in here. So there's pieces that are small enough that will just fit in. The one thing we do have, which is, you guys are in the right temperature range for it, is we actually have boxes of 6, only 6 though, only temperature range. They do make it in PS and HS, and they fit right in the roller.
There you go. Only for 6 though.
Only 6, only temperature we do.
Which is what we use generally, seems like.
Right, so you guys get lucky at temperature range that if you do actually want to get into the roller.
So what is that called if we're looking online? Because I'm about to order a bunch of crap, it seems like.
This
Not
is
crap,
just
sorry, not crap.
block. They just flat out call it blocks for wax machine.
Blocks for wax machines.
You can't get much easier than that. And it comes in both PS and HS. And the other random thing I'll tell you, if you are buying any type of block, and again, this is not what the sales guys want to hear or numbers guys want to hear. So this box is 1,050 grams. If you buy the box that comes with 5 of these in it, you buy 900 grams of wax. This box, or this box of 5 bars, are the exact same price. So if you need 6, no matter what, I probably wouldn't buy it this way in all honesty at all, because you can get an extra 150 grams, it just comes like this. Because of course you're not paying for 5 plastic containers inside of a cardboard box. You're just buying a pile of these inside of an inexpensive cardboard box. So, you use a lot of 6, no matter what, and even if you don't have a roller, probably tell you to buy it this way.
The roller is efficient, it lasts a long time, you don't need to use daily maintenance. When we have summer camps with the club, we actually brought this out because it's very efficient.
And you use less wax, right? You waste less wax, so you save on wax over time.
Yep, and less scraping for the athlete, you know, because you put a nice thin layer on
And your
it.
ski should last longer theoretically, because you're not putting as much hot, cold, hot, cold.
Got it.
Do you think you'll start using liquid instead of hot?
I'll still use the roller. There's still a place for a
For the
roller,
base.
for
Base
sure.
wax.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're talking about in a perfect world, roller, wax it, maintain it with your spray the next 3 to 5 days, and then when you start to see some
Anything you think, like, not even when you see the burn, before you think you're gonna see the burn.
Okay, and then you get back to the wax. So you're gonna show us how it works, or at least how many passes do you make, how much pressure, how does?
You just let the ski rest on it.
Okay.
You just kind of hold it on it, and you just roll down it. If you got a nice clean layer in one shot, good. It's gonna take a few times to get used to it. If not, you just do it a second time.
Okay.
But basically, it's usually one clean shot. That's it.
So when you scrape, you want everything off, like how much pressure are you putting on that?
I scrape fairly aggressively. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna kind of show some of that.
Mike, what would you do, so if you got to copper, say they came off snow at copper, and they're going from slalom to GS for 3 days, what are you putting something on that ski to keep the moisture in it versus waiting to know what you'll be on for snow?
I'm just putting on what I'm figuring.
Just guessing what it'll be, not a base prep.
No, I'm just using 6 again.
6 again, put it on there. Yep.
And if I need to, like for some reason it got really warm, I'll end up taking the 6 off and putting 7 or 8 on top if it got really warm. Or if for some reason the temperature plummeted, scrape it off, put 5 on top. Yeah, like if also you just had that extreme change, yeah. We did have something over here.
I was just asking for a demo on the roller.
Okay, yeah, we can try and get that going. I can probably,
Do you keep adding to the roller, or do you gotta?
you just keep adding it, just keep it.
So it's not gonna mess with the.
The nice thing about that, the other cool thing about that is, some of the other rollers out there, they're very similar. What they'll do, the one main one I'll say that is out there that kind of competes with it. It's not digital, so you're guessing. And you're like, yeah, we're gonna use 6 on this size, and hopefully it's not gonna smoke. That one actually is very difficult unless you touch the pot itself. It's extremely difficult to burn yourself, which is nice. The classic giant silver one that everyone has with a wood handle is, I've burned myself more times than I care to talk about, out of my own fault. This thing, when it's at full temperature, you can put your hand on it here, and you're not going to get burned. Yes, it's warm, but you're not going to get burned. But we'll let that get up to 10. So, scraping and brushing. Scraping, big thing is having scrapers that are square. So using a scraper sharpener is huge. We have the electric scraper sharpener, which is quite simple and nice. The fact of simply turn it on and run your scraper through it. Square scrapers are your best friend because they make your life way better because they scrape your skis faster.
So you want to use plastic?
Yes.
Scraping's hard.
Yep. So this, I'm going to make a little bit of a mess. I actually don't want to do this. I don't want to make a scraper mess in no man's land. But basically, I'm just going to show you. It's as simple as plug it in, turn it on, and then all you literally do, I just don't want to put the scraper, dirt's everywhere. There's an arrow on it, and you literally just go like this. It's a super thick scraper. You just run it through. That's because I just hit the blade. You just run it through until it sounds consistent. You know, if you hear like, it means you're not flat yet. Just push it through a second time. Most of the time I do this, and I flip it. You know what I mean? So I kind of do like 1 or 2 passes, I'll flip it, 1 or 2, do the other side. I always do all 4 sides, so I'm always good to scrape, 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 without a sharper scraper again. There's also a really nice like little, I have them with me, and just so you know, I didn't bring a lot of stuff with me. You guys need any odds and ends, I do have it with me. It's got a Panzer file on the bottom of it. It's a plastic guide. You put the scraper in it and you do the same thing, except you're doing it manually. You're literally just like scrape, 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 scrape. Square your scraper up. Scraping wise, just push. You know, you can actually see the amount of wax I crayoned in there even. But you're just gonna like clean it up. Work your way down the ski. Normally you have a little extra weird pile here. You know, scrape that off. Many times I'll use the scraper here to get to what's left on the plastic bumper on the tail. Once you keep going and you're no longer going like that, basically didn't get anything. Many times I'll flip the scraper real quick for my final push. Make sure you have the wax off. More wax you take off the scraper, less brushing you do. That's simple. To make your life simple on brushing, we have roto brushes, which are awesome. We even have a new one that has a built-in suction to it. It's got a little angle piece that connects, and you just connect your shop vac to it with one of the hose adapters for size. We're just going to use one without the suction for a sample. Brush spins. We're going to spin, of course, this way. We want to push the wax down the ski. How you hold your stuff is up to you. I just actually like doing it this way. But this is your workhorse. Of course, I'm doing extra, assuming the ski had a lot of wax in it.
So you can go both ways.
You do brush both ways.
What is that called? That tool?
Roto brush.
Roto brush. I definitely need one of those.
Yep. Basically, a roto brush, I tell most people to only buy the blue one. You don't need all the fancy different changes through here, because there's different ones that get softer and softer and softer. To get started, just buy the blue nylon. Don't spend your money on extras. You don't need to. From here, we would use hand brushes. As you can tell, I have a bunch of different brushes. If I wasn't using a roto brush or I was doing a refresh, all our brushes are numbered. 1, first brush. This one's an aggressive steel. You're not going to use this much. You probably don't even want to buy one yet. It is angled, so it definitely tells you which way to use it. There is an arrow on it specific. Only push one direction with this brush. Only go tip to tip. Number 2 brushes, your second brushes. These are going to pull out more wax. They have an arrow on them. On these, really doesn't matter. These brushes, if you use them a lot, if they start to get a curve, you're kind of done in that respect. But when I first brush, I don't start here. If you guys sweep a garage at all, and you start here, by the time you get to the end of the garage, the pile of dirt is huge. Start here. This is where you can brush both ways. Brush this part of the ski off. Move back. Brush this part of the ski off. move back. That way you're not pushing a pile of wax on your first brush. Just something that helps you get brushing a little faster. First brushing, again, you do brush both directions. Same thing, you brush your garage floor one direction. Comes out pretty clean. You turn around and go the other way, you get more dirt. Same way here, we got a curve. Brush cleans this way. We also got to clean it this way. You're not going to do it with angled brushes, you're not going to do it with metal brushes. So if it's metal, those are one way. Your nylon brushes or your synthetic or horsehair or anything, you can definitely do it both directions. Normally this brush, I use a lot both directions. I regularly flip it on my hand, that way it doesn't get a direction and it lasts longer. Because I'm also brushing both ways. But again, same thing there, I would brush, then I would push that dirt off. I'd come up to here, and brush. If you ever actually watch Graham's videos, he actually doesn't even use the handle at all, and he holds a brush sideways. So whatever works, not going to tell you how to do it. You know, Graham definitely holds brushes this way all the time. Graham brushes this way if you watch his videos. They're almost dead sideways, they're kind of like right there.
You got used to the square ones.
What's that?
Yeah, it's just small ones.
Yeah. And then just that, there's different brushes of different, you know, you can go through a lot of progressions. For the most part, as long as you have a good solid first brush or roto, a second brush, maybe a final brush. There's lots of like, typically if I'm doing stuff, I'll go through 4 brushes if it's a speed ski. You're not gonna need to do that, you don't need to. You just need to make sure that when you finally brush, you no longer have wax coming off the end of the ski. When you don't have wax coming out, you brushed enough. It's that simple to know. But having a good second brush, final brushes are nice to have as well. When I'm final brushing, I am only brushing one direction. Final one, you know, I'll typically just that, you know, kind of brush my way down. Even now, probably can't, you know, I can't see it, but I actually did get a little bit of wax out of there still. But yeah, final brushing, I will definitely, you know, brush down, and I do tend to finish with like a nice. So that's your basics on brushing. Basically, you can never brush too much.
What about before you wax? Are you doing any base prep?
Like, what do you mean?
Brushing.
wax.
When I deem it necessary, yeah, that's when you're going to be using something like this or medium bronze that has that blue perimeter on it. That's going to be pre-brushing.
And all the time, or just?
Not all the time. It's when you kind of need to just freshen the base up a little bit. Again, it's a variable based on how much time the ski's been on snow, what the snow condition's been, so on and so on. If it seems like it's not taking wax, you probably want to kind of freshen the brush, we'll call it. That's one way to tell if it's not taking wax. It just seems like wax is not penetrating the ski anymore.
And you don't like some manufacturers make a finish roto or different. I know you said
Oh,
stick
they're
with
awesome.
blue.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
But I still prefer hand finishing. You know what I mean? And you can eventually go to that, but I'd say to start, get a blue roto. I mean, for me personally, I only carry a blue. I have this one. It's brand new. I've had this brush for 2 years. I've never used it because I just use that and I go to hand. It's kind of a personal preference. You know, but to start, definitely just start with blue, and then you can decide later if you really want to get into horsehair or things like that for your secondary brushes on the roto. That's just personal choice. Again, there's a lot of things here I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to tell you there's definitely no specific. It's, you know, the way you kind of want to do it.
Can you explain how the wax is getting into the base of the ski when it's counterintuitive that you're getting everything that you can back out? Like, is there any research, or how do you know?
It's just that micro layer that kind of is bonded to it, is the best description I think I can give. Yeah.
And that micro layer will last typically at least a day on snow? For U12, U14,
Yes.
U16?
Yeah, you're going to be fine. I mean, the ski's going to start to get slower.
Okay.
I mean, after 8 runs, it's going to get a little slower. It's going to.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But again, for training and stuff, you know, We know that, and it's a constant variable, we'll call it. You know, it changes every day on a snow condition. It's gonna change how much abrasion there is to it. But, yeah, I mean, race day, hopefully, race day, as long as everything goes well, you're just going down the hill twice. That's it.
Can I ask you one quick question about the files?
Yep.
Because I know I don't have any files, and to get that really at first, before you start using the diamonds, like what files do I need?
I like second cut a lot.
Second cut?
Yep. Or something that's kind of just that I'll call it a medium, anything that's medium-ish.
Okay. And that's gonna be the same size as like a diamond stone?
Yeah, we do, I mean, I know a lot of guys that file, one of my main guys on World Cup, he always files with a full-size file.
Yeah.
And.
With his guide?
With his guide.
Oh.
And because the file, of course, it's only really solid here, and he's one of these guys that literally files, and then he keeps, because most of your pressure is always gonna be the front teeth, get the most abuse, because they're the ones that are leading into it. So, he files for a while, he takes his file, he lays it on his bench, he hits it with the masonry hammer and snaps the end off, and works his way through his file slowly.
Gotcha.
You know what I
So
mean?
a second cut, longer file would work, or just?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you get more use of it.
That's what he does. I prefer taking a normal file that might be this size, and I section it into 100 millimeter pieces.
Oh.
That's what I prefer.
You just break them?
So this one's just cut off wheel when I'm at home. I just take the carbide cut-off wheel, the angle grinder, cut off. That's me.
All right.
You know what I mean? So again, and we truly make files that are 100 millimeters.
But that's the only file you really need and then the rest of it's gonna be diamond.
Right, to get started. I mean,
Yeah.
it's sometimes nice, again, if something was really dull, you go to a first cut or like a bastard, ours is the bastard file.
Bastard file.
Which is a standard file coarseness, we'll call it.
Okay.
But again, I mean, we have stuff that starts at 12 teeth per inch up to 20 teeth per inch on some of our other files. Some of our single-sided chrome files are in teeth per inch, they don't give the name.
Okay.
So it's kind of a variable.
That's helpful, thank you.
Can I ask a stupid question? On the vise that I just bought, which is the Toco, it's got an angle for edging and like a vertical one.
Yep.
And sort of which one do you use for edge, like your side edge?
So that's kind of a preference.
Okay.
So for me, a lot, like when I'm doing standard touch work, I leave my ski like this. I don't even tighten it down.
Is
If
that
I'm filing,
is that
yes,
the-
I clamp it.
Okay.
Because you have to drag it, and the ski, we don't want it to slide. I do a lot of just normal touch work with my ski just about this angle.
Okay.
Because if I don't have any real friction, I'm doing stuff like this, I can sit here and just go like this.
So it's kind of personal preference.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah, so I'll do a lot of stuff and I'm just retouching lightly, I'm just going like this, I'm not clamping it.
Okay.
Just because it saves time for me.
The important thing on those angle ones, that you mentioned very early, is making sure the device is set to the tip and the tail.
Yeah.
If you get it too close in, sometimes you do hit.
Or you can tip.
Yeah.
If you push down a little bit, you go like this. You set it here, it's got nothing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do one of those actions. So yeah, length is key.
Okay.
Roller? Roller, yeah, there we go. So the roller's up to 140, I should have taken the lid off, but it really doesn't matter.
It's really easy.
So we can see this ski. We're gonna be a little bit of a trick, on the bench here, but we'll get this done. Most of the time, I just normally make sure it's wet, like I'm making sure I know it's hot all the way, and I can wash it with a spin. No matter what, even after I know that, I usually take the tip of the ski and I just kind of roll it to make sure it's spinning. Then
You don't put much weight down on it.
not really. You roll ski. Well, do that. Normally I go slower. I just did it for example. I'd be a little slower to just try and transfer some more heat into it.
How do you clean
One
up?
and done. Yeah, so if I'm going normal speed probably, I'm gonna say I'm like, and sometimes you get a little drag, but if I'm trying to do a GS ski, I'm usually more of a speed like this, making sure I'm just adding that extra heat a bit.
And no pressure.
Not really, I am maybe a little bit, but nothing significant. get smooth at it, it's 1. You won't get the,
Then you're scraping and brushing if you're done.
yeah, let it cool, make sure it's just room temperature cool when you're all done. Scrape it off, brush it off, done.
I gotta run, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Cool, really, really appreciate it.
Yeah,
That's really
super
good.
helpful.
How do you do the roller?
That's good.
Use the coatings.
Really good.
You have to clean the odor after, or is no, you clean this?
No, you just keep fresh wax at the same temperature.
Different wax too.